there has been a whole online debate narrative. College football internet is really just
On
bathing
one?
itself in glory these days. As
Yeah.
it's just argument after argument after argument, and some people really trying to tear down other people. But this is a fascinating conversation that's happening around Cam Ward. So he did not play the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl. This was a game that was, I think Miami had a 3-point lead at the half. He had 3 touchdowns in the first half, including the one that broke the record for most passing touchdowns in a single season in Division I, which is a record that might get broken again by Dylan Gabriel later this postseason, with Oregon still in action. But so Cam Ward, great first half, plays really well. The game was super fun. No one was getting a stop until basically like halfway through the second quarter. So it was a fun game. Obviously it's a really fun bowl. The game MVP gets to pick the mascot flavor that, is the one that gets toasted and they get to eat. Like there's a lot going on in this game. And then sort of, we come out after halftime and Cam Ward's not playing. It's Emory Williams. And everyone's sort of like, all right, was that just a predetermined outcome here? Which it seemed like it was, that the plan all along was for Cam Ward to play one half and then try out Emory Williams and see what you got. Of course, the game stays close and Miami gives up a touchdown in the game's final minutes, tries to come back, can't do much. And so they lose by 1 point. And then this becomes a huge, huge storyline that Cam Ward did not come back in this game and didn't come back in the final drive. The broadcast showed him tossing a ball around. It sort of looked like maybe he was going to try to come back in for the final drive. He did not. So afterwards, Cam Ward was not available to the media, and Mario Cristobal didn't really elaborate on it, which kind of allows this conversation to fester further. So he said, quote, "All meetings with players and decisions like that, we made them in private. We keep them in private. So I'll prefer not to answer any questions as it relates to that. But I know he played his best while he was in there." Okay. With all of that preamble being said, Joshua, let's assume it was a predetermined outcome that he was going to play one half of this game. How do you feel about that when we've had conversations about guys who don't play at all, guys who decide to play the whole game, draft stock, risk, injury risk, all of that? How do you make sense of what Cam Ward did?
I read some tweets. Cam Ward let his team down. Cam Ward wasn't there when they needed him. You know what wasn't there when Miami needed it was the damn defense all year long. And we're going to pick like one half of a bowl game where Cam Ward is like, you know what, I'm going to be there. I'm going to prep with my team. I'm going to help get the next quarterback ready. Like, some of my receivers aren't playing in this game. Doesn't matter. Like, I know part of it is selfish chasing a record. I think he has every right to at this point. Like, I think you have every right to go out and do it. And so this whole let people down thing, like, dog, they could have been in the college football playoff if they had a halfway decent defense. So that's really what let them down. I don't want to hear any of that because Cam Ward did everything he tried to help them win as many games as possible this year. It's a weird thing to see, but I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing to see. Like, you get to, he gets to finish his career the way that he desires to, which I think he's earned the right to do. Then you put in the backup quarterback, which everybody kind of wants to see. What's the future look like? Can he win us a game in the 2-minute drill, which he's clearly not ready to do right now? Is that going to be your quarterback moving forward, or do you feel like whatever the case is? So I feel like there's a lot of discourse and people just wanting to be mad about it, like they've never seen it before, and it was weird, and like, oh, I would never do that if it was me. Sorry, bro, you weren't good enough to ever play, so it wasn't you. The other part too about like, oh, the NFL is going to see this as a red flag. I promise you, they don't give a shit. They do not care. Like, they might actually see the red flag as like, bro, you actually wanted to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl would be the question. They're not going to look at his leadership or him abandoning his team and knock him as an NFL prospect.
Yeah, that was a weird narrative. I don't think that anybody, especially just in the last decade with the amount of opt-outs we've had in bowl games, it doesn't seem like that would be anything that would be held against him. I get it from a fan perspective of, hey, this game is awesome. This is really fun. It's our last chance to get Cam Ward as our quarterback. And what? He's done. Like, he's done. The game is close. I understand that reaction. But I just, the weird part to me is the way the narrative is different than if guys had just opted out entirely. Like, would you, this is a question for you, Joshua, like, would you have rathered him not play the game at all versus playing a half? Like, does that feel different to you?
I'm glad I saw a half of Cam Ward, right? And like I really think people are looking at this as a, it's a close game, and so he could help them win, which I think is very true. But there are other people who are acting like he just went in the locker room, took his helmet off in front of the team, and said, "Well, I got my record, I quit," and then came back there on the sideline, like
right, that it wasn't planned,
that it wasn't predetermined, like there wasn't a conversation.
Like he did not
about
quit
it.
In the middle of the game.
That's the thing that really, but like people are acting like that's what he did, and they're trying to make him some sort of demon.
I think Mario could have clarified that in the post game,
right? But
and maybe
I think he alluded to it pretty well from the standpoint of like,
this is a decision.
It was a decision. We make decisions in private, so we're not like, I get that. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, that whole thing has been really interesting. I don't think it's. I think it's. I'm with you where I would rather have gotten to see him for a half. I think it was awesome that he was going to play in that game.
Sure.
And he didn't owe anyone a full game. I think we can applaud guys that could opt out that don't, who play a whole game. We can applaud or feel weird about guys who play half a game. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Like if it was a Pop-Tart Bowl without Cam Ward and you didn't have all of that electricity that you had in the first half, it's not as fun. It's not as exciting. And if you're a Miami fan, it's not the same experience. I do think that because there was a record at stake, and it was an individual passing touchdowns record, that also fed into the narrative that this was a selfish decision. But we've
why
seen
can't
this
he
before.
Do that, though?
But other players do that. They play in the bowl games to break records. That's right. Part of what happens.
I just mentioned at the top of the deal, Kyle McCord played in the bowl game to try to achieve the ACC record, I think, single season passing yards or whatever the case is.
I think Malik Neighbors broke an LSU record by playing in LSU's bowl game.
Yes. And like literally, and the coaches get it too. And it's been like this for Kyle all year long. Like all he did was ever spin the rock, but like all they did was spin the rock in the bowl game so he could get his yards.
Yep.
They were calling the plays for Cam Ward to be able to get his record. And I think either one of those guys, based off of the way that they played all year long, deserved an opportunity, if it was within reach, to go out and try to break the record. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, it's again weird to have this kind of discourse over a bowl game that's not part of the playoff. This is not someone
everybody
opting
tried to
out.
tell me it didn't matter. Oh, these games don't matter. Well, y'all are mad online.
What? Right. And you're saying that these are meaningless bowl games, which is part of the narrative, right? The games outside of the playoff are that. Then to get that upset over someone leaving at halftime over a game where the winner gets to eat a giant Pop-Tart cake is a little bit tough. But again, I get it. I get that fans think it's weird or would have rathered him play the whole game. It's just not something that I'm personally going to get that worked up about, because I'm with you. I'm glad we got to see him for a half. I'm glad we got to see some of those touchdowns and like the ping ponging of scoring that we had for the first half. It was awesome.